This bail reform fix is so important because I've heard so many, listen, look what just happened, awful, to Marisol Fuentes. So tragic. And that person should have never been out to commit that murder. But in addition to that, I heard the stories about the police officers being shot at, people being assaulted, and by individuals who are out on bail that should have never been out on bail. So that's why I pushed so hard to get this fixed. And we did get it fixed. And now it's going into place, thank God. And the Attorney General has issued guidance to prosecutors, law enforcement, to educate them on what the new law is. But I can tell you, Adam, that this is a top priority of mine, that this new law be implemented properly, that the judicial system, as well as the prosecutors, defense lawyers, everyone knows what the standards are now, because the standards have changed, and we're going to end that revolving door, because we have the safest state in the nation, but this was making us less safe. And it was creating real cases of victims who were suffering who should not have suffered.
Essentially now violent offenders will have to go before a judge before they can be released. But, obviously in the prior situation, you had bail commissioners, you had the former bail magistrates who might have taken a more sort of let them all out approach. You could certainly have a judge with that same philosophical disposition. So how are you going to find accountability in the judiciary when that is a separate branch?
Well, one of the things we've done in this law is the standard is what it should be, a probable cause standard. Before there was a heightened standard, and it wasn't the right standard in terms of protection and bail, so I'm very glad that that has changed. And when it comes to accountability, if you think about it, that magistrate system was a failed system. I was against it. That's why I wanted to eliminate it. And judges applying a law that is much stronger, I expect them to apply the law. If they don't apply the law, that's why, you have an open dialogue about it. And I can tell you that as governor, I'm going to make sure that the judges that I nominate are judges that are going to follow the law. And that is what their job is. So that's very important to me.
Yeah, that move in the evidentiary standard is probably going to be very important.
The move in the evidentiary standard is probably one of the most important pieces of that bail law. And by the way, the evidentiary standard that it's moved to was the one it was before. It is the standard evidentiary standard. Why they ever tried to make a higher burden of proof for dangerousness, when dangerousness is so important in protecting the public, I'll never understand.
Yeah, it was a sometimes absurd situation where mini trials would play out over why someone would have to be just held for dangerousness.
Right, and the end result was you saw it in case again, where dangerous people were on our streets.
Right. Is the logical next step, though, if you have a judge who is, granting pretrial release in, say, 90% of cases, is it important to get some statistics in there so you can see and hold judges accountable?
This is really important. And in fact, one of the items we just had before the governor and council is keeping statistics, especially in the areas of domestic violence, so that we know exactly how is this law being implemented. Are there people that are being released that shouldn't be released? And I would like to see that kind of data across the criminal justice system, not only for the domestic violence cases, which are incredibly important, but also, violence, assault, rape, child abuse, all those things. We need to make sure that we understand what the statistics are and that the system is working. Adam, we're ranked the safest state in the nation, but that means that we have to have constant vigilance, right? We take that for granted, and we won't have that moniker anymore. So we're never going to take that for granted.